I'm going to now give you more detailed kind of introduction to Asana and really spell out the details of how you would start up a new case and how you would assign it as a screener, and then also hit some of the major responsibilities for different people. Great, so this is what it looks like assigned. When you're doing a screening, after you have actually completed the screening, it is then your job to create a new Asana case, right? And as part of that, you would be assigning all the pieces that you can assign up to this point, okay? So after you've completed your assignment, you would see my tasks. None of these things are related to the thing that we're doing right now, but here, if you were to create a new case, what you do is you highlight the case flow template, you go to the options, you click copy project, and then you would name it. I'm just going to give it an example here, and it's going to be 10999. All right. So that's what we would keep, as this is our basic structure. I would click off this as keeping the assignee because we have some standard assignees for the tasks. And so what I want to do is make sure that that carries over, and then we create a new project. Good, you see that it's working there, and soon we should see it in this list of cases, and in fact we do. We see 1099 case flow, and when we click on it, it will bring us to the entire list of all the necessary sorry, just checking to make sure that it's all here. It looked a little bit short to me, but I think that we have it all now. Okay. Great. Sorry, you could have just skipped right over that. But once you have created a case, make sure that you go here. Sometimes it's important to click the all tasks, and then you'll see everything. And you'll see a whole bunch of tasks that go basically from the very start of phone screen all the way to complete case audit. And then you will have some of the tasks already pre-assigned to certain people. You leave those because we decide to make life easier for people. But let's say that it was, this is a little bit of an odd one. Let me say that I was the one who was doing the phone screener. Well, first thing that you would do is assign yourself to be the phone screener. Now let me back up and just say that each task is using a similar structure in which we describe what the task is, and then in parentheses we label who the assignee is, who is responsible for that task. That's for completing it. And for some of these tasks, we already know who those people are, and so we can go ahead and do that, right? So if I'm the phone screener, I would label myself as doing that. I just start typing in my name, and it comes up there like that, and there I appear. I'm also the phone screener on this, and so I know that I assign myself that. Assign Asana task. That's also my job. And it says, look, assign up until time 1A editing narrative report, time 1A supervisor. That means that up until we get to this part, time 1A edit narrative report and tell supervisor it's done. Approve narrative report and convert to PDF, this one right here. I can fill out all the spots up until that point, right? Because I know who all the people will be. If ever you're wondering, I'm not clear on this instruction, could there be more instructions? Click on it and it'll bring up this side box, and we'll give extra descriptions. Assign everything, person and deadlines, up until time 1A editing narrative report, and tell supervisor it's done. Except do not assign supervisor acknowledgement of assignment, because you will not know who the supervisor is just yet. Okay, great. but all the rest of these things you can do. So for example, I can go ahead and let's just say that I knew who, this is still the phone screener, so I assign this to myself. All right. All these other preliminary things have already been pre-assigned. Sending the Time 1A Qualtrics form is already done. Creating SimTrend accounts already assigned in June. Email welcome letters assigned to the YAD-C clinic coordinator. Preparing Time 1A and Time 1B packets are already assigned to the YAD-C coordinator. So the nice thing about this is that, in fact, as soon as I assign tasks to these people, they will be notified that they're assigned to the tasks, and then after people start completing them, it will start to notify those people. So you'll see this happen in a second, but let's just finish assigning people. Now, since I'm the phone screener and I scheduled the actual Time 1A interview, I know who the Time 1A interviewer is. Let's just say that it's Sarah. And let's just say, and that's interviewer number 1, and let's say I paired her with Cindy. Okay, so now I know that you see that we have 2 different copies of the same task, Time 1A reminder call, Time 1A reminder call, and these are made for Time 1A interviewer 1 and Time 1A interviewer 2. And that is designed to make sure that both interviewers are aware that they have been assigned an interview. Great. The same can be said for actually conducting the Time 1A diagnostic intake. We would just copy the same people over here that we did just above. So Time 1A interviewer 1 is Sarah. Time 1A interviewer number 2 is Cindy. Do we know the Time 1A interviewer for downloading, installing, and emailing June info for the SimTrend? Yes, we do, because we already identified that to be Sarah. We also, because we, at the screening, scheduled the Time 1B behavioral assessments, and we know who those people will be. So now let's just assume, I'm going to guess, let me just say it's just Jordan, and this next one will be Heyun. Okay, I would assign them. Notice that I know who BA number 1 is, BA number 2, actually conducting the behavioral assessment. You notice that we have reminder calls, behavioral assessment. This just follows the basic pathway that we need. Okay. If you have any questions about what these specific things mean, ask me, ask the clinic coordinator. They will help you out. Great. So this gets us through the actual reminding families to come to the interview, conducting the interview, reminding families to come to the BA, conducting the BA. These are standard tasks and reminders. Is the Qualtrics complete? Is the SimTrend complete? If so, we would do supervision, which is assigned, the T1A supervision assigned to me. The risk tracker, actually filling out the risk tracker, is up to me. The Time 1A narrative write-up and entering CSRs into the Google Doc, well, we know again, we already know who the Time 1A interviewer is. That's Sarah. This is Cindy. We know who does. Then, great. They write up the intake. We determine eligibility and randomization. That's me. We conduct the actual phone disposition where we tell the family what disposition they've been assigned to. That's Emily. We email the therapist and supervisor the case assignment after we have confirmed with the family that they want to continue. That's Emily again. Let's see, what are there? I wonder what this arrow means. What does this arrow mean? I don't actually know what that arrow means. Okay. Then at this point, we would, the supervisor would acknowledge that they have received this email and basically go into Asana and check that off. You as a screener, I don't know who the supervisor is up to this point, so that's why I can't fill this in. You'll remember that originally the task says assign Asana tasks up until time 1A, editing narrative report, except do not assign supervisor acknowledgement of assignment, and that's because I don't know who that person is at this point. So that's the one thing that you leave blank, but we do know that I have to review the narrative report. And then based on that, here you see, keep going, the time 1A interviewers have to edit that narrative report based off of my review, and so we know that, those two people will be Sarah, and we know that that second person will be Cindy. Okay. Again, all the rest of the things you won't know at this point. Therapy supervision, therapist, therapy supervision, etc., etc. So you're off the hook for that. So that's all the duties that a screener has to do. Now I could break this up into several different recordings, but I'm just going to go through and maybe I can splice this in post-production. But the next step that I'll have you look at is what is the job. I guess the one mystery here that is unexplained is what do supervisors do? So let me give a quick shout out to what supervisors do. So let's say that we've completed all these steps up through the actual disposition. At that point, when we have completed the I forgot the other piece, very important piece. You actually have to schedule due dates. So in addition to assigning everyone their dates, you actually have to go and assign due dates because that helps give an extra protection against giving extra alerts. So you'll notice that in many of these we have some kind of time frame, and they're all centered around day 0, and that's the date of the intake, right? There are going to be some dates that are -2 days. There's some dates that will be +2 days. There'll be day 7, day 14, day 10, and all of those are your responsibility after you've assigned these to also add due dates. And so for this, you would have to know what the actual due date is. So let's assume that we made today is May the 4th. Let's say that we scheduled an intake for next week on, say, May the 9th. Okay, so we know that date. Great. We now know what these days are before that. So 2 days before that would be May 7th, May 7th. Day 0 again is May 9th, right? Again, May 9th. And you don't even have to read what the actual content is. I'm just following the day timelines. Now here we also know when the behavioral assessment is. It's not tied to the actual intake, but it will be afterwards. So let's assume that the BA, the time 1B, was on the 16th or something like that. Okay, so we know it doesn't even give me a date for that, so I don't actually even have to schedule that, although that makes sense to do. Let's just do that. Then we know 2 days prior to the BA is going to be the 14th, right? Qualitext day 1, this is also around the intake, so that's the 9th again. Sim trends got to be done by day 7. So that's the May 9th plus 7 is the 16th. Day 1 is the 9th. It's day 9th. Day 7 is the 16th. Day 7 is the 16th. Now here it gets a little tricky. Monday after day 0. So you got to think day 0 is the 9th. And I gotta look at what the Monday is after that, and that is the 14th. Disposition, is there a deadline for this? Oh, see, it's hard to read this, right? But it actually says Friday after eligibility and randomization. So if I was to create a deadline for that, then Friday after eligibility and randomization. So I know that it's the Monday after day 0, and that was May 14th. Then it's got to be by this Friday. Yeah. That's what that is. Same with, it's getting complicated here. We have day 10. If this was day 0, this is day 7, then it would be 7, 8, 9, 10. Day 14 would be 2 weeks after the intake, which is the 23rd. Same here, May 23rd. And the rest doesn't have dates, okay? So that's what a screener has to do. All right, great. That gets the case started. Now what I'm going to do is move on to just a note about what the supervisors have to do, because they're the only ones who haven't been in these meetings. Okay. So by the way, supervisors, when you get a note, you're going to open this up. You will likely only see your little task, which the first thing is supervisor acknowledgement of assignment. I'm just going to put, Laura's not actually a therapy assignment, but I can explain it easiest to her if she, you know, gets a weird message. So I'm just going to put this in here, like this. Okay. By the way, okay. So when you're a supervisor, you would just have to come on supervisor acknowledgement assignment. You just would click that and it would complete your task. The other thing it says is to read intake and check risk tracker. So when you get that notification, all I ask you to do is you go to the Google Drive, right? Go to your Google Drive, go to the YAD-C, project list and status update. Go to your risk tracker tab and look at the case that has been assigned to you and look to see if there's any particular SI or SA, suicidal ideation or suicidal attempts, that are important for you to notice, whether there are any physical or sexual abuse issues to notice, and whether there were any particular study exclusion criteria that were important to notice. And here are some brief notes on what were important to highlight in terms of the risk, as well as any important plans that we did, any safety assessments and any safety plans that we decided to note. So that's what you would be looking for here. So that's kind of the most important role for the supervisors to start off the case. Great. So let me just, that was just a brief break to kind of get supervisors in the mix of things. But now let me take a step back and pick up where the next assignments left off. So the screener had gotten us up through the editing the narrative report of time 1A. After that, then what we need to do is fill out the rest of these blocks, okay? The rest of these assignments. And the person who does that will be essentially Emily, who does the disposition, okay? Because at that point, we will know, after we've done eligibility and randomization, who the therapist is and who the supervisor is. So we'll be able to fill out the rest of this. So let's assume that we knew those and we started filling out the rest of this. Well, then we know the therapist. Let's just say, for sake of argument, that it is, I'll add in someone new. Let's just put in, I don't know, let's just say that it is June. Okay, we'll say it's June is the therapist. The therapy supervisor we knew was Laura. We know that the therapist to start treatment is June. We know that the reminder of time to is June. This is just therapist. Time to email Evan. These are all therapist ones, right? Okay. Etc., etc., etc. So you would list June for every therapist one, and you would list, let's see, up to this point. Okay? Now the important thing for the therapist now to do is that they have some reminders for themselves that they have to set. So once they get assigned this case, what they have to do is they'll get some tasks to remind them that they need to set reminders for themselves. So first, they will get a note from Asana, start treatment, and set date for time to reminder. Okay. Essentially what we want to do is we want Asana to remind the therapist that the time to mid-treatment is coming up. And we want the therapist to set that date at the beginning of treatment. Now, because only the therapist will know when they technically start treatment, they need to be the ones who set this reminder. So they will open up Asana, look at this long list, and say, okay, I'm thinking that it is now May the 4th. I'm going to start treatment. Let's say it's May the 4th today. The intake was here. This was when we were going to finish, disposition. The earliest I'm going to start therapy is, say, the 23rd. So I'm not making this fictional, but this should be the actual date when you start treatment, right? Then, in order to come up with an estimate for 6 weeks, I count 6 weeks out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So by July 4th, I'm going to estimate that that's when they should be ready for mid-treatment time 2. Okay? At least that's when that's when the reminder is. So you know what? It's here. This is the task to do this. Reminder of time to estimate 6 weeks from treatment start. That's going to be, okay? Shoot. Do you see what I just did there? The actual task was start treatment and set the date for the time to reminder. I look down, oh, here's the reminder of time 2. I'm saying the deadline for me to do this is July 4th. Great. Now, I can also either have this, I can have this date already pre-scheduled, or I can wait until the mid-treatment happens and I can set the date for the post-treatment time 3 right now. And I'm torn, but I think what I want to do is set a preliminary date that can always be estimated up before this. Okay, so but let's assume we're at July 4th is the week 6, then another 6 weeks to make it 12 weeks would be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, and I did the same thing. Here's the reminder. This should be August 8th. Okay. Let's see. Then they, the therapist threw out. What are the other? Great. So the therapist is setting these deadlines. Notice that these would all be filled with June, and we can fill them all up like that. Okay. Just for completion's sake, we can do that. We can do this. Right. All these things get assigned to you Great. And the only things that you won't know, therapist, until the actual end of treatment is who the time 3A interviewer will be. Okay? So here at this point, when it comes closer to actually doing the post-treatment assessment or time 3A, you will be responsible for actually scheduling that. Since you will know the family schedule best, you can interact with them by assessing which will work for them, and then you will go to the Google Calendar and you will schedule it like we've always done, right? So once you know that, then you can assign the time 3A interviewer 1, interviewer 2. You will fill in the spots for all of these steps that are similar to the ones for time 1. Then these are the different steps for time 3 interviewers. And so we will actually review that next, but it's very similar to how you do time 1 interviews. Okay, so that's what the role of the therapist is. Oh, but the therapist also has some other things that after all these interview processes, we also have to do the celebration session, completing therapist notes, close case in Therasoft, and then we complete the case audit. And so that's what the therapist does. Great. Good. So that's mid-treatment, that's post. All right, let me do a quick review for the post-treatment assessments, because this will be a slightly different process for you guys, but you will also have to kind of become familiar with Asana. Essentially, when you get reminded, it'll be the same process as early on, which is that you will be assigned different tasks, and you'll be assigned them individually. So let's think of who's on our post-treatment team. I wonder if they have filled this out. No, we have not, so I can't even assign them realistically. But essentially, we would assign you to the individual things, and when you are alerted, these are where you check off that you've completed each task. Making sure that the post-treatment survey is done, making sure both by interviewer 1 and 2, making sure that the paper forms are done, presenting your case in supervision, actually conducting supervision by the time 3 supervision, entering CSRs into Google Doc, which we'll show you, completing the time 3B assessments, also scheduled by the therapist, and then having the time 3B behavioral assessors give cash, etc. So essentially, the task is slightly easier for the post-treatment assessors, because you don't have to be writing a complex diagnostic write-up, right? So that's what a lot of these early steps are, is about how to write up the narrative, getting feedback, approving it, and then actually going through the eligibility, and then assigning cases, and then contacting them. For time 3s, really your responsibility is just to complete them, get supervision, and then enter the CSRs into the Google Doc. If you want to do an integrated report, we can do that on a separate channel, and so that won't necessarily be entered into Asana, because not everyone will do that for every single case. So that's your review of Asana, and hopefully this will make the process easier and more systematic, and so that at least we'll know for each individual case who's responsible for what, who has done what, and whether those tasks are done. And we'll stop there.